Right, today I'm in Gloucestershire with professional punter, predominantly in running punter, Johnny Mack. Hello John, thanks very much for agreeing to talk to us today. First of all, the question that a lot of people want to know, is in running still like finding it on the floor like they say it used to be?
Definitely not. Definitely not. It's become a lot harder over the years. I don't know whether it's liquidity or whatever, but no, it's definitely not the game it used to be, that's for sure.
So you've been successful for a number of years. How did you first get into gambling, betting?
Well, gambling has been from day one, really. My mum worked at Gloucester Dog Track, so I was brought into the game through that. My dad was always a gambler. Both their families were gamblers, and just been basically involved in the game all my life, basically.
So how long did it take before your recreational gambling became quite successful? And were you a successful punter before you started in running betting?
I was the worst punter in the world from the age of possibly about 16, 15, 16 till God knows when, me 20s. Usual thing, get me wages, had various jobs. Started off, I actually worked in betting shops for Corals and other bookmaking firms. I'd just go in on my days off, have a punt, but basically I'd put my money away, and I was your stereotypical mug gambler. And then I started punting dogs at Swindon. That became successful in my early 20s, and then with everything, all good things come to an end, and it sort of, I lost then, and then it sort of evolved around eventually getting to the InRunning, basically.
So you mentioned that Swindon became successful. I mean, what was your angle there? Because most people can't win betting on dogs.
Well, I started to get the videos for a start, and I think that's a monumental thing as regards greyhounds. I think it gives you a massive edge. A lot of the bookmakers won't actually look at the videos. I certainly know of one now who says, well, I'm doing a bit now, and they'll say, oh, that'll frazzle your brain, why are you bothering doing that? Well, maybe true. I think it makes it more informative. You see every dog in the race. I think you've got more information at your fingertips than what you need to require to make it pay, basically. I think that was the defining moment at Swindon, why I made it pay there.
So moving on then to when you got into in-running betting, how did that start? And did you have a mentor or somebody that said, hang on, you should come and have a look at this?
It was, I sort of stumbled across it because Betfair obviously was starting to take off in the 2000s, early 2000s. I had heard about, just through word of mouth, working at the race course, different things about this InRunning. So I was a layer to start with, but I'm a bit ashamed to admit that being in the game as long as I had, I didn't get the concept that if there was two runners, I was trying to lay a 10 for one. Basically, I'm back in 10 on the other one. When only two could win. Well, needless to say, you got to get, you got to get at least 11 right of them, and it wasn't going to happen, and I failed at that. So then I started again. Somebody offered me a job, £50 a day, going out and calling for them. That went well. And then I just decided to branch out on my own, really.
So when you had your first goes at in-running, you were doing your money, where were you doing it from?
In the stands predominantly. Like I say, waiting till there was two runners and then picking one, which the jump racing, that's fine. The flat, is almost impossible to do that. Obviously you've got your big handicaps at certain meetings. You then two runners, is it? And that's basically it. But it was a failure. But as with everything in life, you've got to experience the failures to get it right,
So what's your angle these days?
Is there one? I think I'm trying a lot of different things at the moment. I don't know whether there is an angle. you got to try and come out with new ideas. Otherwise, you'll just die on the spot. But I haven't really got nothing. What I would say, I mean, I could argue that my main thing is obviously certain tracks they're head on. They're looking at you head on, and I'm sort of side on. But then you find that those tracks, the liquidity isn't as good as the other tracks. So it's more about getting a wage, just ticking over, trying to get yourself a wage now instead of the good old times when I could afford cruises with the wife and the kid.
But I mean, even getting a wage by definition is means you're still a professional punter and earning a living backing horses. How much have you had to evolve to survive as an in-running punter?
Oh goodness, yeah, massively. I mean, unfortunately, we've got a nice house, but it's we've had to rent it. I think my exes every month, I think we've got to get about $4,000 a month, basically. So you got to evolve. You got to, you got 2 or 3 years ago. Well, no, about 4 or 5 years ago, I was easily achieving that. Now it is a struggle, but I'm winning, and you just got to try and keep moving forward, I suppose.
And do you specialise in jumping or flat on the horse racing?
I do both. I prefer the flat, if I'm honest. I don't know. I think that it's like everything. In the summer, there's a lot more meetings and a lot more in-runners sort of spread about different tracks. But, they're the competitive races, as it were, and in the winter, you've got a choice of 3 tracks, say, an all-weather and 2 others. I sort of do both. I think the flat's better for the in-running, but I've not got a personal preference of them both. I like them both, to be honest.
Now, in the in-running world, you would be possibly slightly derogatorily classified as a twitcher. Can you explain to people what a twitcher is?
I think it started when there was a few. I used to, in certain things, I hate to say, I don't want to make it sound as if I'm a clever bloke or not, but I was doing things before other people were, as it were. Southall, classic example. I used to go down the back straight. It'd be the middle of winter. I can remember one day I was in this shelter down there, and the rain was coming in. It was about 3 degrees, and it was sleeting into my face. And I know that a few of the lads in the boxes were saying, "Look at the twitcher again, absolutely massacred over there." So that obviously bird watching, and I'm a twitcher. So
Have you ever been thrown off course for doing it? I think some race courses frown upon it.
one thing I love is when the security comes up to you at the races and they say, you're doing that illegal betting. I absolutely love that. I had an instance with a guy the other week at a track come up to me and said, I'd been sort of going down to my calling spot for a couple of races, and then all of a sudden he appeared alongside me and said, I know what you're doing. I said, what am I doing? He said, you're doing that illegal betting. I said, well, if I'm doing something illegal, you best call the police then and get me arrested, because I don't think it is illegal. But we had a nice conversation, and fair play, actually, he shook me hand. But hey, they're just doing their job. I'm trying to do my job. I got, that's the way it goes, basically.
So you say that you're down the track, so you're watching the race a fair way out from the business end.
Yeah.
Whereabouts is your favourite sort of spot, or do you change it around?
Started off, bloody hell, must be 14, 15 years ago now. No, about 12, 13 years ago. And I was on 3/4 pole. There was a team used to go a furlong and half a furlong out, and I was sort of in between them. Now I'm, different places now. I used to go down, I started off on the 3/4, like I say, then I went to a furlong, then a furlong and a half. There was more people coming out. And eventually I got to the 2 pole, which in some tracks is okay, other tracks it isn't, you know. So I just gotta, the ones what ain't that good, I gotta change basically.
So watching a race from so far out, you're going to make a snap decision. What signs are you looking for? Can you give us any of your trade secrets?
Yeah, I can remember giving somebody an example. There was a horse what used to run at Lingfield on the all-weather, and we would talk, a lot of the in-runners would talk, and I'd go in it. The horse was called Turner's Touch, horse of Gary Moore's. I think the best comment is long-standing maiden, I think is the best comment. Anyway, I called it, and it predominantly dogged it and got beat, and I went in and they said, oh, what do you bet there? And I said, oh, I bet Turner's Touch. And one bloke said, well, I always had a bit of respect for you, now I haven't. But the way I see it, or then, not so much now, they're the sort of horses I want to be backing, because everybody are looking to lay that horse because they all know it's a dog and it ain't going to win. You know, it may be right, it may never win, but they were probably the prices what I would get. I would sort of want to look where everybody else isn't looking, and that's without being reckless and just betting horse for the sake of betting it.
Okay, are you predominantly a backer or a layer then?
A backer. I've been all my life. It's quite interesting actually. A couple of people said to me in the past, it's so easy to just lay. Everybody knows that what's going to get beaten, you can lay that. So I'm a backer. I don't get out of them. You know, a lot of people lay back. I don't. The only time I'll probably lay back is in a steward's inquiry or in a photo.
Now, I understand that there's quite a lot of political stuff going on with you in running, guys. They're all over the place. You're quite competitive. Have you ever had any run-ins with box players up there paying fortunes to watch the same races?
Playing fortunes. Yeah. It's. I mean, I don't know. I'm the sort of guy I try and get on with everybody. You know, one bloke said to me, one in-runner said, your biggest problem is you want to be everybody's pal. Well, I think there's a fine line being, listen, we're all out for the same thing. I get the box players, why box players would actually have a gripe about paying a lot of money and seeing people there. But, you know, we're all trying to, and I think a lot of the people who are actually out calling would probably pay a little bit more. You know, would be willing to pay as well, but it's, you know, I got pals who's box players, and I don't, you know, there is obviously that little edge to everybody, but I haven't had no real problems with them, to be honest.
Okay, so it's all fair in love and war then when in running punting. What do you think about the people FaceTiming pictures at home? Is that a...
Well, it's do you know what? It's such a strange one, because the callers were the first ones out, and then they come out, and then the box players come and they say, "Oh, you know, we're paying this money. Why are they there?" You know, they probably which they, you know, they got a point. Now all of a sudden it's as if those two people are against the FaceTimers, which it's a difficult. Listen, it's hard because everybody's trying to make a living at the game. It's very, very hard at the moment. There's no doubt about that. I know some people who's going well, some people are struggling, and a lot more fail. But for me, the FaceTimers, you know, it ain't for me to say whether I can stop it. Personal view. Some of the tracks where they go to, the markets are a lot stronger.